What up, guys? This is Wellman. Today we're going to start off with a simple Soundtrap lesson about beats, tempo, and time signatures. So the first thing I want you to do is we're going to enter the studio. When we get here, make sure you click music because we're not doing podcasts today. Then I want you to add a new track. So this is something we did last week, and I think everyone got the hang of it. But if you weren't there to see what was going on, once we add a new track, we're gonna go over to drums and beats, and this is gonna bring up your pattern builder. This makes it really easy to go through and make a simple drum beat. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a backbeat, and backbeat is gonna have, you'll notice that these are grouped into 4 groups of 4 with 3 different instruments that you can choose. So the big groupings here are the wholeness of your beat. Like in this case, there's 4 different parts, but the first part right here where I'm clicking, that's the first beat. Okay. Now to make a backbeat, we're going to go on 1 and 3 with our kick. Really simple. Then we're going to add the snare on 2 and 4. Okay. Notice that the numbers that I gave you are on the very first part of this beat. And once you've got that, you notice we've got hi-hat down here. I'm not going to mess with that right now. It's not super important to what I want to get across today. So a backbeat is really important in any kind of music that is derivative from the blues. So rock, jazz, country, metal, even hip hop is derivative of blues. So when you've got that set in, go ahead and hit spacebar, turn off your playback. I want you to look down here where my cursor is, and you can see all of the controls of how to get around your digital audio workspace. So we've got record, go back to the beginning, rewind, fast forward, play, and then next to that we've got key, which we're not going to delve into today, tempo, and metronome. Now when I first started my playback, you heard the metronome right away. It had that kind of harsh, shrill clicking. Here, I'm going to start it again and start my playback. It's got that really shrill kind of click sound. Now, metronome is super important because without rhythm, there is no music. And what a metronome does is it gives you the tempo that is foundational for you to start playing with rhythms. Now, within your drum kit maker, your beat maker, the tempo is going to be there, but having that metronome as a back pulse is going to help you start to establish what those rhythms need to be and how you actually feel the music. Because whether you realize it or not, you're always feeling the music, and if it's off of tempo, you can tell. It's kind of this intrinsic thing that we all have, and being able to do that as a musician is what's going to make you a better musician right away. So let's talk about this metronome first. Go ahead and click the settings wheel, and you'll see that I have clave selected. Now you could hear that was a little shrill and kind of annoying, and there's a reason for that. Is because, as a lot of you noticed when we played our blues test a couple weeks ago, if you couldn't hear the metronome as loud as it was, then there was nothing you could do. You couldn't stay with it because it's hard to pay attention to. And it's hard to pay attention to if you've never done it before. So that's why I choose clave, because even as long as I've played with a metronome, I can always play with one more often, because timing is just, it's foundational. It's the thing that can make you a musician or not. The one that I like better, because I think it's important to be able to sit and listen to a metronome for long periods of time, is just the click. It's a little more soothing. Now you hear with this backbeat I've created, you can barely hear it, but if I take away the kick, now you get a little bit better sense of what that sound is like. Now I could listen to that for a lot longer than I can listen to the clave, but again, whenever I hit the stop playback, that goes away. For the purposes of this, I'm not going to explore the tick or the hi-hat. You can always explore that on your own. The other thing is, if the clave is a little bit too shrill, it does have its own separate volume. If you just click it and pull downward, that lowers the volume, or pull upward, that raises the volume. So for right now, we're going to use the clave. We're going to put it right about middle volume, and we're going to go on. So this is all fine and good, but what if you want to play slower or faster than what we start with? This is where tempo comes into play. So you'll notice I click the box and we see this number 120. That's beats per minute. So 120 beats per minute is about 2 beats per second. If there's 60 seconds in a minute, 120 beats per minute, that would be 2 every second. So I can leave it here, confirm, playback, there it goes. If I want to speed it up, I have to add, right? So I can go, 140, that's not so bad. Now it speeds up everything. So everything that I do will speed up based on the tempo that I'm adding here. And so I can either add or subtract from here, or I can use this click right here if I have an internal tempo that I've already decided upon when I've set out to compose something. So I can either click here, and it seems like about the 4th one I click, that's where it decides where it wants me to be. It needs those multiple inputs to decide what it needs to set itself on. There it goes. So there's my drum pattern at 75 beats per minute. You can also, like it said, where was that? Oh, on tempo. You can press the T key to do the same thing instead of clicking with your mouse. So if I can go really fast, they're 207. So, oops. There you go. So we can play with that as much as or as little as we want. The thing is, whatever you're playing over the top of this, when you get to something like recording, is what's really going to decide what tempo you need to be at. Because if you can't play fast, you don't want a fast tempo. If it shouldn't feel fast, then you want a slow tempo. But if you're singing a happy or excited song, or you're playing a happy, excited song, and you're playing it really slow, that's going to change the mood entirely. So let's see. What if we want to do something that's not a blues derivative? Say we wanted to do some more Mexican regional music like sereno or mariachi or banda. Those kinds of music, those styles of music are not in 4/4. So we need to be able to understand in this program how to create a time signature that is other than 4/4. So I'm going to leave this up because something interesting is going to happen to our beat maker. I'm going to go up to the settings wheel, grid settings. Now, your grid has to do with, if I scroll, oops. If I scroll in here, this is, let me see. This is my grid down here in the piano roll. You can see that everything has its own, there's like these little lines here. Those are our grid. Now, if I come back out here, and kind of bring it down to where I had it before. Let me click this. We're not going to worry about grid, but underneath we have time signature. So right now we have it in 4/4. Notice there's 4 groups of 4. Now when I hit 3/4, bar doesn't contain a 1-bar region. So that means that what has happened is the thing that we set up before doesn't work. So I'm going to fix it. And if you notice up here at the top, it has actually split part of our beat over here. Okay, and now when I go to playback, notice the looper's on up at the top. Now, that kind of works, but let's go back to 120. Now you could find something like this, but more than likely what you're going to see is something like this. Now this is something much more along the lines that you would hear in in say mariachi, where you hear the guitarón on beat 1 and then the guitars on 2 and 3. Chop, chop, boom, chop, chop, boom, chop, chop, boom, chop, chop. So this is much more in line with anything that you would do in 3/4 or even 6/8. 6/8 would look a little bit different than this, but in this program we would use 3/4 as a kind of a replacement for 6/8. Now, that's not to say that there isn't Spanish music that's in 4/4, but it's not blues derivative. So that's where we get that backbeat from. If I come back here and go back to 4/4, it tells me the same thing. Bar doesn't contain a 1-bar region, and it comes back to this. So I'm going to fix this so it looks like a backbeat again with our kick on 1 and 3 and snare on 2 and 4. Chop, boom, chop, boom, chop. So what a lot of Spanish style 4/4 music is, it's not blues derivative, it's actually German polka derivative, which if you take a look, it's just flipped. So now, without any kind of context, you might say, what the heck is the difference, Wellman? It's just the same thing, but flipped around. Well, it has a lot to do with language and dance, honestly. So where those strong beats lie determine how something is danced to. It also determines how you would sing to it. So what things are derived from really determines their rhythm. It also determines their melodic structure and things like that too. So I'm going to wrap that up. I hope this is really simple and easy to follow. If you have any questions, you can just leave a comment, or you can put it in Google Classroom or email me directly. Subscribe and hit that bell for the meme, and I'll see you guys later.